Welcome aboard, whether you've got here by accident or on purpose, whether you're hijacked or here of your own free choices. Welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we help people explode into their lives, where we help people create their lives rather than fry them. And friends, we're going to continue our conversation with Katie Dudas on her continuing recovery from her cancer diagnosis.
And then there's days where you just cannot get out of I can't get out of bed because it's just like, "Oh my gosh," between cancer and the pandemic, it's hard to pep talk yourself out of some of these situations.
Well, it certainly is. Was there, and I know you as a bright, effervescent young lady. However, even under the as effervescent as you are, I would suspect that depression tried to worm its way into your life.
Oh, I was depression, anxiety, were huge in this whole process, and I tried and I started doing a thing where I was recording videos or I was putting out posts and pictures where I was trying to be once I went public with this whole thing, where I was trying to update folks on what it was like to go through this because I don't think we talk about it a lot. We don't talk about like what goes in the process of treatment and diagnosis and what happens after you ring the bell, like what happens after that. And but yeah, it was I wanted to show both sides of it, and there are days where I was a sobbing mess because I couldn't, like, what was the point of all this? Like, what was the point of fighting and putting yourself through this torture when, like, the normal and the getting back to how things were just kept getting further and further away.
Okay, I would probably suspect that some people would encourage you, support you, try to cheer you up. During that particular times, what worked for you and what would you have preferred?
I think that for me personally, like, I lucked out because I did find some young adult cancer groups, which worked out really well for me and started hearing, I don't wanna say the right things from them, but, like, I have most of the people I know in my life have never experienced something like this, and they were very much, "You got this, you're strong, you're gonna do this," and then I had my young adult cancer groups, and they're like, "Oh, this is awful, isn't it?" And you're like, "Yeah, this is really bad." And, like, I think the balance was great, but I think with, something with cancer, they call it a battle, but sometimes it's not even a battle because you don't even know the cards are stacked against you.
Ah,
Like I would love to use a wrestling analogy where you think that you go into the match and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take you down, cancer. And little do you know that, like, cancer's tag team partner's got a chair behind you and ready to take you out. And you never see it coming because it's just not an even match sometimes. And you don't even know it until, till the end.
okay. So with the other uh, people who had been affected with cancer, it much like a 12-step group, those people understood how you feel, and you really didn't have to explain yourself, or they didn't have to ask you why you were there.
Yeah, you were able to, it was nice for me to be able to talk to people who had gone through similar things, and so you didn't, okay, I'm having this very, like, for it's this is so sorry, I'll probably just keep jumping around, but, like, it was so weird, like, going through chemo, and the side effects of chemo were also, um, side effects of COVID. So there was this, like, weird thing in the back of your head where you're like, "Is this just the chemo that's affecting me, or do I have I contracted COVID?" Like, so this was, like, this bonus level of trying to make through things, and your brain just another thing having to deal with. But it was nice, like, having people where you could say, "Hey, is this something you experienced too?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is totally normal." And you're like, "Oh, good. Thank goodness."
So you could talk to people who understood. Okay.
Mhm.
So I think one of the most disrespectful things a human being can say to another is, "Oh, I know how you feel." Uh, but however, those people in that room with you, they knew how you feel. They knew how you
Mhm.
felt.
And then I think it like, I yeah, definitely, 'cause there were definitely folks that were like, "I totally understand how you're feeling with this," and you were like, "I'm not so sure, like, what you're dealing with is the same." And people, and I think, people like to show empathy by saying, okay, I think this is how you feel because I experienced this and I had, I think, what is a similar experience? So they try to show empathy that way. But yeah, I think there it was nice to have people who were like actually knew how I felt.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, uh, so not only did you go through the medical treatment, you also sought support from the cancer group. What else did you do, Katie?
For another thing I did is I applied and got my medical marijuana card,
Ah, good
which
for you.
I mhm, which I think I wish I would have done it sooner. But at the same time, I think I was so nervous with the COVID protocols and everything going on. So, you only have the information you have at the time, to make make certain decisions based upon that information. But I got my medical marijuana card and elected to do drops because there's a pharmacist, Matri, I believe is Matri Medics, Mitri Medical something. I'm totally blanking on their name, but they have a pharmacist who did this long interview with me and asked me what I was going through and how they could best, offered suggestions, and we came up with a treatment program to complement what I was going through.
So you went to somebody who had some knowledge.
Hmm.
Okay, so the medical team was treating you
Hmm.
with the chemotherapy. You were receiving some support from like minded individuals, like a 12 step group for cancer patients.
Hmm.
And also, you were availing yourself of newer alternative methods, however, that had the science behind that also.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Wow. So you were covering a lot of bases.
I was trying to.
Okay, so how long was the course of treatment, Katie?
I did 12 rounds of chemo, bilateral mastectomy with partial reconstruction. Also did 20, I think 26 rounds of radiation, and then the only thing I have left now. Well, I do. I still take the particular type of cancer that I had was hormone driven. So I am on a hormone suppression medication probably for 5 to 10 years, depending, on how, what's going on with my life. And also, I have reconstruction surgery on my right side
Okay,
in May. So
okay.
it's a long process.
Yes, it is. However, how long are the treatments spaced out, Katie?
For example, with my chemo, the first 4 rounds were every other week because of the strength of the chemo that they give you. It's called the Red Devil. It's the
Uh,
AC, and it looks like red Jello shots.
uh,
But and that was something every other week 'cause my body needed time to heal in between, and we didn't want my white blood counts to get wiped out. And then the 12, it's called Taxol, was the other type of chemo I had, which was weekly. And then we had to allow, oh gosh, I think it was like 6 weeks afterwards, then I could have surgery. And then I had to wait until I healed up from surgery before I could have radiation, which ended up being in late September through October. And then 6 months after radiation, which is going to be in May, is when I'll have the other surgery,
so,
reconstruction.
so tell us about what the radiation is like.
Radiation is such a, like, I really think of it like, oh gosh, it was one of the Bond movies where the laser, where the like, bzzz. Yeah, but it's really wild because I had it on my right side because that was the side that was impacted with a lymph node involvement, and it's a lot of getting set up. Like the first appointment's like almost 2 hours long, where they're taking X-rays to make sure that they're trying to treat just the specific area because they are dealing with a radiation, and you don't want to just willy nilly shoot it throughout your body because one of the side effects of radiation is cancer,
Uh,
which is which you like I said, a lot of stuff you just kind of have to like smile about and be like, okay, the side effect of the treatment is more cancer. Super. But they do things so they make sure that they're targeting that specific area, and they're keeping, like, for example, when I got radiation treatments, I held my breath to keep my chest wall away from my lungs, to
okay.
try to protect my lungs. But it was so they get you all set up in the first beforehand, like I said, and then they have a whole like physics. It's a whole team of people who get together and they figure out your treatment program and how they're going to, essentially use the radiation on you. And then you have daily radiation treatments that take anywhere from usually about 15 minutes to maybe like 40. I think it's 45 minutes with like the
Wow.
long days when they would take x-rays to make sure that they were still hitting the right spots.
Uh-huh.
So you were there for a while, and like for example with mine, I had my arms above my head the whole time, which
Oh
is a
boy.
little, can be a little sore afterwards, and you were exhausted, and the stress of the radiation is always, kind of taking its toll without you realizing it was taking its toll.
So, when did you begin to realize how highly trained and intelligent and really amazing these treatment people are?
Oh my gosh. It was like every time I would like do the next, like when I would talk to the oncologist, I was like, holy cow, like she knows what she's talking about. And then my surgical oncologist, and I was like, wow. And then my plastic surgeon, and we're like, this is what we're gonna do and how we're and like, how did you think it? Like, how do you like it's amazing. And then, like I said, I didn't realize radiation, there was so much involved with them, figuring out the best course of treatment with the radiation. And I was like, "Oh, they just go in, zap you, and done." And it's like, "No, there's math and there's numbers and." But it was, I lucked out with a good
So, you
specialty.
begin to appreciate the training and the expertise and experience that these people have.
Oh, absolutely, and I was very grateful for it because it's a lot of information.
Well, we can certainly return to gratitude. That's mostly important. It's a most important subject. However, at this point, I think some of the listeners may be thinking, "Wait a minute, Katie's insurance termed at the end of December. So tell us how you handled it after that."
I had a wonderful, so Sarah was my at McGee was my, oh gosh, uh, patient navigator. I knew I was gonna remember the phrase if I thought, patient navigator. And she said, "You know what? We'll get you a I'm gonna help you apply for Medicaid." And I was like, "Okay, thank you," because I have no idea what else I'm going to do because I couldn't Cobra was, I mean, I just lost my job. I couldn't afford Cobra.
Yes.
And so I was grateful that Sarah was like, "All right, we'll get you, just tell me this information. I'll fill out, I'll help you fill out this paperwork on your behalf." And it took I oh gosh, I made it through the whole month of January with no insurance and no idea how I was going to pay for all of this because it was I kept telling, I they knew that it was in I had applied, but it takes a while for it to be processed. So you're like going into some of these appointments going, "Oh, just put it on my card," like put it on my account. And then you're just seeing this number just go beep, and just waiting for them to approve it is just so nerve wracking.
Ah,
But I was approved, thankfully. I can't.
yes, indeed, indeed. So, uh, actually, you actually before we began this interview, you were talking to me about something called toxic positivity. Can you tell us about that, Katie?
I think something that I've noticed, at least with my particular cancer journey, is you'll see a lot of posts that folks will, like other people who may have gone through something traumatic, and they're like, "Oh, I survived because I didn't have a choice," and that works for some people, but there's a lot of people who you always have a choice. Like you and I don't think we give ourselves credit in that regard because people, well, I'm supposed to be having, I'm supposed to survive this. I'm supposed to be like, I'm a survivor. I got this. I'm this big tough person. And meanwhile, you're not necessarily that every single day. You don't wake up and go, oh, I'm gonna, since I had this near death experience, I'm gonna live life to the fullest. Like all these like cliches we've
Yes.
heard since the beginning of time. And but it's not always the case, and then it makes things worse, I think, this toxic positivity around, like, your cancer battle, because when you have a bad day, you're like, "But my friend so and so just posted on my Facebook wall that I'm an inspiration. How can I be an inspiration when I can't even get off my couch?" And, like, so then you're like, take this step forward, and it's just like, right back because you just don't it's not an easy every day isn't, I'm not, putting on a cape. I'm not Wonder Woman every single day and got
Well,
this, you know?
well, in the 12-step world, we say that all days are good. However, some days are definitely better than others.
Yes, yes. And I think learning to recognize, and I think, like I said, giving yourself credit that it's not, no, you are not gonna poof survive whatever you're going through. You put in work, and you deserve credit, and to you have to say, tell yourself, thank like I I've looked at my body. I'm like, thank you for doing this because I don't know how you did this. Like as silly as it sounds, I think in recognizing in my friend, like people who've gone through this, it's like you deserve credit, and sometimes you just need to give it to yourself because you don't. I mean, we can give up at any time, and you keep going, and even the littlest steps of just like, I get out of bed and brushed my teeth. That's awesome. I ate something, and like the little victories,
The little
you still
victories
did
and
it.
to be aware of and recognize them. So, as of
Mhm.
we speak, as of today, Katie, tell us about your life. Tell us where you're at in your recovery.
So it's really weird, because of the lymph node involvement and the type of cancer I have. I'm not, what you would like, I'm not cancer free. I'm visible cancer free. Like, you can't, if you did a scan, I probably wouldn't show up. It wouldn't show up if I had any in my body. So we're assuming that it's all gone, but there's always the chance that some is itty bitty, and maybe future tests would find it if I had it. So that's why I still have to take a hormone suppression. I still take hormone suppression medication. Tomorrow, actually, this is random, but I have a CT scan with contrast, which means I have to drink a horrible drink before we do all of it. Or no,
Okay.
I think that's the injection one. See, all the tests blend together at a certain point. And because there was a spot on my lung that we had seen, but we didn't think it was anything, but we have to follow up every 6 months to make sure it's nothing.
Uh huh.
So that there's that anxiety that's always there, that it's like it should be gone, I think. Cool. But yeah,
So, how does one be proactive about their health in your particular case, Katie?
I think, I've done it's through one of my groups. We talked about incorporating more vegetables in our diet. That's They're finding that meat and animal products are help feed the cancer. So they suggest to eat more vegetables in your diet and adjust however, accordingly. I very much teeter on the I should eat healthier, but what if something happens and I turn down this brownie? Like, so I'm no, don't ever think that I'm some sort of, if there's a brownie, I'm probably not gonna turn it down. But, I think in something that I started doing this year, going in, to 2021, I don't know if it's a resolution, but I've tried to get myself to move more, because that's important, because even though you don't want to move, you should keep moving, and, that'll help you feel better in the long run. I'm working on meditating more, and there's this app, the meditation app that I use, helps me. It does a check in at the beginning of it, and for 10 seconds, and then I have to select how I feel, and it helped me put it more into words. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm sad. No, I was feeling envy, or if I was, if I was feeling lethargic, you know what I mean? Like, putting things more into words besides, I'm tired. Like, okay, let's go beyond tired. Like, what's this emotion that you're feeling? And which definitely helped me a lot during this whole process, because when you get to, there's so many times, only so many times ways you can say I'm tired, and before you want to kind of deep dive into like figuring out what's really happening behind the scenes.
So, what you're telling us is it's important to be able to label and identify how you're feeling, and actually, that gives you some power over it. Know when you can identify it.
And I think, yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think it sounds weird, but sometimes I kind of not, I talk to myself in
Wonderful.
the okay, let's have a conversation with, how are you feeling? Like, okay. And you know what? I'm much better about asking for help and going, oh, wait a minute. I think this is a thing I should ask somebody about or ask for some assistance with, which I think is a big thing coming out of this whole cancer journey has been the ability to, okay, I can ask for help and feel better about myself without having to beat myself up over showing weakness.
We have many more stops along Katie's journey to recovery, which we will be discussing in our next podcasts. And as always, we offer a free prescription at the end of every podcast. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Forgive yourself and forgive another. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste, my friends.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.